Elias Carver went hiking in the Olympic National Forest, seeking peace, but found a nightmare. A bloodied knife, a lost journal, a cracked phone. 6 chilling clues tell his story of survival. Watch these videos to uncover the terror. Police found these leads, but will they solve the mystery, or is the truth still out there? I still smell the pine sap and hear the crunch of needles underfoot, the way the Olympic National Forest swallowed my footsteps that day. It was supposed to be my escape, a solo hike to clear my head after losing Dad. The whole rainforest, with its moss-draped cedars and mist that clung like a ghost, felt like the perfect place to disappear. I didn't know someone else had plans for me to vanish too. My name is Elias Carver, a 32-year-old biology teacher from Seattle with a knack for tying knots and a bad habit of second-guessing myself. Dad's death left me untethered. Grief does that, makes you reckless. I'd read about the bears and cougars out here, but I wasn't afraid of claws or teeth. I should have been. The real predator wasn't wild, it was human. That morning, I'd parked my beat-up Subaru at the trailhead, the air sharp with cold and the promise of solitude. My pack was heavy with gear, a tent, a stove, a journal to scribble my thoughts. I told my sister, Mara, I'd be back in 3 days. "Don't do anything stupid, Elias," she'd said, her voice tight with worry. I laughed it off. Stupid was underestimating the forest and the man watching me from the shadows. The trail was quiet, just the hum of insects and the occasional snap of a twig. I was 2 hours in, sweat soaking my shirt, when I stopped to refill my water bottle at a stream. The water was so cold it numbed my fingers. That's when I heard it, a rustle, too deliberate for a deer. I turned, squinting into the trees. Nothing, just the forest breathing. Might get twisted, but I chalked it up to nerves. Dad always said I was too jumpy. Then he appeared. A man, maybe 40, in a flannel jacket and work boots, stepping from behind a cedar like he'd been part of the scenery. His face was weathered, his eyes too bright, like they held a secret he couldn't wait to share. "Lost?" he asked, his voice low, almost kind. He held out a canteen. "Water's cleaner for mine." I hesitated. My bottle was already full, but he was smiling, and I didn't want to seem rude. "Thanks, but I'm good," I said, forcing a grin. He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave mine. Something about his stare made my skin crawl, like I was prey. I turned to go, my boots slipping on the wet rocks. That's when I felt it, a sharp sting in my neck like a wasp. My vision blurred, the forest tilting sideways. I tried to scream, but my throat locked up. His hands caught me as I fell, strong and unyielding. "Don't fight it, Elias," he whispered, my name sounding wrong in his mouth. Everything went black. I woke to darkness, the air thick with damp earth and mildew. My wrists burned, bound tight with rope that bit into my skin. I was in a cellar, the kind you'd find under an old cabin, with rough wooden walls and a dirt floor that smelled of rot. A single bulb swung overhead, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. My pack was gone, my phone too. Panic clawed at my chest, but I forced myself to breathe, to listen. Water dripped somewhere. A floorboard creaked above. He was up there. I tested the ropes, my fingers fumbling in the dark. They were tight, but I'd tied enough knots in my life to know I could work them loose if I had time. My head throbbed, and my mouth tasted like metal. Whatever he'd used to knock me out wasn't gentle. I strained to hear more, catching his voice, low and muttering. "You'll see, Elias. You'll pay what's owed." Pay? I didn't owe anyone anything. Did I? My mind raced, sifting through faces, debts, enemies. Nothing fit. Who was this guy? I thought of Mara, probably calling the ranger station by now, her voice sharp with panic. She'd know I was missing when I didn't check in. But the Olympic was vast, hundreds of square miles of dense forest and cliffs. They'd never find me unless I left a sign. I dragged my bound hands across the dirt, searching for anything, a rock, a stick. My fingers brushed something cold and sharp, a nail half buried in the soil. I gripped it like a lifeline, my heart pounding. Then I saw it, scratched into the wooden wall where the light barely reached. Not the first. The words hit me like a punch. My breath caught, and I stared at the jagged letters, each one a scream from someone else who'd been here. Someone who hadn't made it out, who also been trapped in this cellar. And what did he want with me? The cellar's damp walls seemed to close in, the air heavy with the scent of mold and something sharper. Fear, maybe my own. My name is Elias Carver, and I've been trapped here for what felt like days, though I couldn't be sure. Time blurred in the dark, measured only by the drip of water in the corner and the ache in my wrist where the ropes chafed. I still clutched that nail I'd found, hidden in my palm like a secret. It was my only weapon, my only hope. The Olympic National Forest was out there, beyond these walls, its towering cedars and misty trails mocking me with their freedom. I'd come here to find peace, to shake off the weight of Dad's death. Instead, I was a prisoner in a hole beneath some forgotten cabin, my screams swallowed by the earth. The man who'd taken me, his face burned into my mind, those wild eyes and that too calm voice, hadn't shown himself since I woke. But I heard him. Footsteps creaked above, slow and deliberate, like he was savoring my captivity. I counted seconds to stay sane, whispering numbers under my breath. 1,000, 2,000. My biology teacher brain kicked in, calculating. Maybe 6 hours since I'd woken, maybe 12 since he drugged me by that stream. My mouth was dry, my stomach hollow. He'd left a tin cup of water and a crust of bread on the floor, slid through a hatch in the door above. I didn't touch it at first, afraid it was drugged too. But thirst won. The water tasted like rust, and the bread was stale, but they kept me alive. I studied the cellar, my eyes adjusting to the dim light of that single, swaying bulb. The walls were rough-hewn planks, splintered and damp. The floor was packed dirt, cold against my legs. I dragged myself to every corner, searching for weaknesses. The ropes limited my reach, but I found a loose splinter on one plank, sharp enough to saw at my bindings if I could maneuver it. It was slow work, my fingers trembling, the nails still tucked in my palm for later. I memorized sounds, the creak of the third step on the stairs, the faint hum of a generator outside, the way his boots scraped when he moved above. He came down once, his shadow filling the doorway before I saw his face. Flannel jacket, same as before, but now I noticed his hands, calloused, stained with grease, clutching a worn leather wallet. "You're awake," he said, like we were old friends. "Good. We got time." His voice was steady, but his fingers twitched, betraying something. Anger? Nerves? He crouched, just out of reach, and stared at me. "You don't even know why you're here. Do you, Elias?" My name again, like a taunt. I stayed silent, my heart hammering. He muttered something about debts and promises broken, then stood abruptly, leaving me with more questions than answers. What debts? I wasn't rich, wasn't connected. I taught high school kids about ecosystems, for God's sake. But his words gnawed at me, stirring memories I couldn't place. Had I crossed someone? A parent, a colleague, someone from the hiking group I joined last year? My mind spun, but nothing fit. All I knew was his wallet. There was a photo tucked inside, a woman's face creased and faded. I only caught a glimpse, but it felt important, like a piece of him he couldn't let go. I thought of Mara, my sister, out there somewhere. She'd be frantic by now, probably hounding the park rangers, demanding they search every trail. I pictured her pacing her childhood home, her phone glued to her ear, her voice breaking as she begged for updates. Mara was stubborn. She'd never give up. But the Olympic was a beast, 900,000 acres of wilderness. Even if she called in the National Guard, they'd need a miracle to find this cabin. I had to help them, had to leave a sign. Using the nail, I scratched at the dirt floor near the wall, carving a crude arrow pointing to the loose splinter. If someone found this place, they'd know I'd been here, that I'd fought. My hands shook as I worked, the ropes cutting deeper. Every creak above made me freeze, expecting him to burst in. But he didn't. Instead, I heard him talking, muffled, one-sided like he was on a phone. "It's done," he said. "He's here." A pause. "No, he doesn't know." My blood ran cold. Was someone else involved? Who's he talking to? Hours later, or maybe minutes, time was a fog. He came down again, this time with a flashlight. He aimed at my face, blinding me. "You're thinking of running, aren't you?" he said, his voice sharp now. "Don't. You won't like what happens." He stepped closer, and I saw it, a hunting knife at his belt, glinting in the light. My grip tightened on the nail, hidden in my fist. I wasn't strong enough to fight him, not yet, but I could wait. I'd learned patience tracking animals in the wild. He was just another predator. Then I noticed something, a loose board in the stairs behind him, wobbling under his weight as he climbed back up. It wasn't much, but it was something. If I could get free, get to those stairs, I could pry it loose, maybe use it as a weapon or a way out. My pulse raced, hope flickering for the first time. But as the door slammed shut, his footsteps echoed above, faster now, like he was pacing. Something had him on edge. Could I reach that board before he came back? Or was he already planning his next move? The cellar's cold seeped into my bones, the dirt floor like ice against my skin. My name is Elias Carver, and I'd lost track of how long I'd been trapped in this hole beneath the Olympic National Forest. The nail I'd found was still hidden in my palm, my secret lifeline, but the ropes around my wrists were a constant reminder of how little control I had. Every creak from above, every drip of water kept me on edge. I was alive, but barely, clinging to the hope that someone, anyone, was looking for me. The air smelled of wet earth and decay, and the dim bulb overhead flickered like it was mocking my chances. I've been watching the kidnapper's patterns, memorizing every detail. His boots, caked with red clay, left faint streaks on the stairs when he came down. Red clay wasn't common in the Hoh rainforest, too wet, too green. It hinted at somewhere else, maybe a dry ridge or a logging road nearby. I filed it away, my biology teacher brain piecing together clues like a puzzle. If I could figure out where I was, maybe I could signal someone. I worked at the ropes with the splinter I'd found, my fingers raw and bleeding. The loose board on the stairs haunted my thoughts, a potential escape if I could just get free. But my body was weakening, the stale bread and rusty water barely enough to keep me going. I picture Mara, my sister, out there in the world. She'd be tearing apart the ranger station by now, her voice sharp with panic. "Elias wouldn't just vanish," she'd say, slamming her fist on a desk. I imagine her showing them my photo, the one from last Christmas, my goofy grin under a paper crown. The thought of her fighting for me kept me sane, but it also hurt. What if they were looking in the wrong place? I heard faint sounds sometimes, distant helicopters, their thrum swallowed by the forest. Once I thought I caught the bark of a search dog, but it faded too fast. I pressed my ear to the wall, desperate for any sign they were close. Later, I learned the rangers had searched the wrong valley, misled by a tip about a hiker's abandoned car miles away. My Subaru was still at the trailhead, probably covered in dew by now, but no one had connected it to me yet. The forest was too big, and I was a needle in a haystack. The kidnapper came down less often now, but when he did, his eyes were wilder, his hands unsteady. He'd mutter to himself, fragments I strained to catch. "They'll pay for it," he said once, pacing the cellar's edge. "You'll make them see." Who was they? His words churned in my mind, stirring memories I couldn't pin down. I thought of Dad's old colleagues, the ones he'd argued with before he died. Had one of them held a grudge? But why me? I was just a teacher, not some power player. The photo in his wallet, that woman's face, kept nagging at me. Was she the key? A sister? A wife? Someone I'd met? I scratched more marks into the dirt, adding to my arrow from before. If rescuers found this place, they'd know I'd been here. I used the nail to carve my initials, EC, into the loose splinter, small enough to hide, but clear enough to mean something. My hand shook, not just from cold, but from the weight of what I was up against. Every sound above made me flinch, expecting him to catch me. But I kept going, driven by the thought of Mara's voice, her stubborn refusal to give up. Then, during one of his visits, he made a mistake. He'd brought a tray, another cup of water, another crust of bread, but he set it down too close. On the tray was a knife, small and rusted, probably for cutting the bread. He didn't notice it, too busy muttering about time running out. My heart pounded as I stared at it, just out of reach. If I could stretch, maybe I could grab it. The ropes burned as I strained, my fingers brushing the tray's edge. I froze when his boots turned toward me, but he didn't see. He left, the door slamming shut, the loose board creaking under his weight. I lunged, my bound hands scraping the dirt, and my fingers closed around the knife. It was dull, barely sharp enough to cut rope, but it was something. I hid it under my leg, my pulse racing. This was my chance, but it came with a new fear. He'd been nervous, his mutterings more frantic. Something was changing. Someone was pressuring him, or something was closing in. I heard him on the phone again, his voice sharp through the floorboards. "They're getting closer," he said. "We need to move him." "Move me? To where?" My stomach twisted at the thought of a new prison, one even harder to escape. Was this my chance to act, or was time running out faster than I thought? The cellar's damp chill clung to me like a second skin, the air thick with mildew and the faint tang of my own sweat. My name is Elias Carver, and I've been trapped in this hole beneath the Olympic National Forest for days, maybe a week, though time was a haze. The rusted knife I'd grabbed was hidden under my thigh, its dull edge my only shot at freedom. The ropes around my wrists were looser now, thanks to the splinter I'd been working with, but every move burned. I was weaker, hungrier, yet the thought of Mara, my sister, out there fighting for me kept me going. The kidnapper's behavior had shifted. His footsteps above were erratic, no longer the slow, deliberate pacing I'd memorized. He was agitated, his voice sharper when he muttered to himself or barked into a phone. "They're too close," I'd heard him say last night, the words muffled through the floorboards. "We'll move him tomorrow." Move me? The thought sent a jolt of panic through me. This cellar, awful as it was familiar. A new place could be worse, deeper in the forest, harder to find. I had to act now. I've been studying the cellar's every detail, my biology teacher's mind cataloging clues like specimens. The red clay on his boots, the loose board on the stairs, the scratched words on the wall. Not the first. But yesterday, I'd found something new. While scraping at the dirt floor to hide my knife, my fingers brushed a small, folded piece of paper wedged beneath a plank. It was brittle, yellowed, half-torn, but I could make out a name scrawled in smudged ink. Clara. My breath caught. Was this the woman from the photo? In his wallet? The one he clutched like a lifeline? I tucked the paper into my sock, my heart racing. That name, Clara, felt like a key, but to what? Had I known her? Had Dad? I worked the knife against the ropes, my movements slow to avoid noise. The blade was dull, but desperation made me patient. Each frayed strand was a victory, though my hands trembled from exhaustion. I pictured Mara's face, her stubborn determination, and Dad's voice from years ago. "You're tougher than you think, Elias." I wasn't so sure, but I had to try. The loose board on the stairs was my plan. Pry it free, use it as a weapon, or slip through if it led somewhere. But I needed my hands free first. He came down at dusk, the bulb casting his shadow long and jagged across the dirt. His flannel was stained, his eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept. He didn't bring food this time, just stood there, staring. "You're more trouble than you're worth," he said, his voice low, almost regretful. He paced, his boots leaving fresh streaks of red clay. Then he stopped, his head tilting like he'd heard something outside. A distant hum, maybe an engine. His hand went to the knife at his belt, and I froze, the rusted blade hidden under my leg. "They won't find you," he muttered, more to himself than me. "Not yet." When he left, I heard him lock the door, a heavy bolt sliding into place. But the loose board creaked louder than usual as he climbed the stairs, like it was barely holding. My pulse surged. This was it. I worked the knife faster, cutting through the last of the ropes. They fell away, leaving my wrists raw and bleeding, but I was free. I stood, legs shaky, and crept to the stairs, the knife clutched tight. The loose board was halfway up, splintered and wobbly. I tugged at it, my fingers slipping on the damp wood. It gave slightly, revealing a sliver of darkness beneath, a crawl space, maybe, or just the cabin's foundation. I didn't care. It was a chance that I wedged the knife under the board, prying harder. The wood groaned, loud enough to make me wince. I froze, listening. Silence above, then a new sound, voices. Not just his. Another voice, lower, unfamiliar, coming from outside the cabin. "We need to hurry," it said, sharp and urgent. My blood ran cold. He wasn't alone. Someone else was here, someone helping him. The paper in my sock, Clara's name, burned in my mind. Was she out there? Or was she a ghost from his past, someone I was paying for? I pried at the board again, my hands shaking. It came free with a crack, revealing a narrow gap beneath the stairs. I could squeeze through, maybe find a way out. But the voices outside grew louder, closer. Footsteps crunched on gravel, heading toward the cabin door. My heart pounded, Mara's face flashing in my mind. I had to move now, but who was out there with him? And had I just sealed my own fate? The air in the cellar was suffocating, thick with damp rot and my own ragged breaths. My name is Elias Carver, and I was inches from freedom or disaster. The loose board I'd pried from the stairs lay at my feet, revealing a narrow gap beneath, a black void that might lead out of this hellhole in the Olympic National Forest. The rusted knife trembled in my hand, my wrist still raw from the ropes I'd cut away. The paper with Clara's name burned in my sock, a clue I couldn't unravel yet. Above me, the cabin door rattled, and two voices, his and another's, grew louder, their words sharp with urgency. "He's secure," my kidnapper said. "Let's move him tonight." My stomach lurched. Time was up. I dropped to my knees, peering into the gap under the stairs. It was tight, barely wide enough for my shoulders, but I saw a faint glimmer, maybe moonlight, maybe nothing. I had no choice. The voices were closer now, boots crunching outside. I squeezed into the crawl space, the dirt cold against my chest, roots scraping my back. The knife was clenched in my fist, useless if they caught me now. My heart pounded, Mara's face flashing in my mind, her stubborn hope the only thing keeping me from crumbling. I crawled, the space narrowing, my elbows digging into the earth. Then I saw it, a sliver of wood above, cracked and weathered. A trapdoor, maybe, or a weak spot in the cabin's floor. I pushed up, my arms shaking, and the wood gave slightly, letting in a rush of pine-scented air. Freedom was close, but so were they. The second voice, gruff, unfamiliar, snapped, "Check the cellar." Now, footsteps thundered above, and the cellar door creaked open. I froze, dirt smearing my face, as a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. "He's gone," my kidnapper shouted, his voice cracking with panic. I shoved at the trapdoor, desperation fueling me. It splintered, opening to a starry sky and the forest's endless shadows. I scrambled out, my legs screaming as I stumbled into the night. The cabin was a squat, rotting thing, half hidden by cedars. I ran, the forest floor biting my bare feet, branches clawing my arms. Behind me, shouts erupted, two sets of boots crashing through the underbrush. "He's out here," the second voice roared. My chest burned, but I kept moving, weaving through trees, the knife still in my hand. I didn't know where I was, only that I had to keep going. Mara's voice echoed in my head. "Don't do anything stupid, Elias." Too late. Then a twist. Headlights flashed through the trees, distant but real. A vehicle, maybe a ranger's truck, on a dirt road beyond the ridge. Hope surged, but so did fear. Was it rescue? Or was someone else tied to this nightmare? I veered toward the lights, my lungs aching, when a figure loomed ahead. My kidnapper, his face twisted with rage, the hunting knife gleaming in his hand. "You don't get to leave," he snarled, lunging. I swung my rusted knife, catching his arm, and he staggered back, cursing. I didn't wait. I bolted, the headlights closer now, their beams slicing through the mist. A new sound broke the chaos. Sirens, faint but growing. Flashlights danced in the distance, shouts carrying over the wind. "Elias Carver!" Someone called, a woman's voice, sharp and desperate. My heart leapt, Mara. No, it was someone else, maybe a ranger. I screamed, my voice raw here. "I'm here." The kidnapper's footsteps faltered behind me, and I risked a glance back. He was retreating, the second figure pulling him into the shadows. They were running, but so was I, toward the lights, toward salvation. I burst onto the dirt road, collapsing as a ranger's truck screeched to a stop. Flashlights blinded me, hands pulling me up. "Elias Carver?" the woman asked again, her face coming into focus. A park ranger, her badge glinting. I nodded, gasping, unable to speak. She radioed for backup, her voice steady but urgent. "We've got him." Suspects fleeing north. I looked back at the forest, its darkness swallowing the men who'd taken me. They were gone for now. I was free, but the paper with Clara's name was still in my sock, and the second voice echoed in my mind. Who else was out there, and what did they want with me? The Olympic National Forest is quiet now, its cedars standing like silent sentinels under a sky bruised with dawn. My name is Elias Carver, and I'm alive, sitting on my sister Mara's porch in Seattle, a blanket around my shoulders and a mug of coffee gone cold in my hands. The cellar's damp stench still lingers in my memory, as does the weight of the rusted knife I gripped during my escape. I'm free, but freedom doesn't erase the nightmares or the questions that keep me awake. The Rangers found me on that dirt road, my body battered, my mind a tangle of fear and relief. Mara arrived hours later, her face pale but fierce, wrapping me in a hug that hurt my bruised ribs but grounded me. "I knew you'd make it," she whispered, though her eyes said she'd feared the worst. The park ranger, a woman named Lena Carter, filled in the gaps. They'd been searching for days, tipped off by my Subaru at the trailhead and Mara's relentless calls. A hiker's report of a suspicious cabin, half hidden off an old logging road, led them close. My scratched initials, EC, on the splinter in the cellar confirmed I'd been there. I left my mark, and it saved me. The kidnapper didn't get far. His name was Daniel Holt, a former logger with a rap sheet for petty theft and a grudge that ran deeper than I'd guessed. They caught him at a gas station 30 miles away, his flannel stained with my blood from our scuffle. The second man, his cousin Paul, turned on him, spilling everything for a plea deal. The paper in my sock, Clara, unlocked the motive. Clara was Daniel's sister, a hiker who died 3 years ago in the Olympic, her body found at the base of a cliff. Daniel blamed my father, a park volunteer who'd led a search for her but called it off too soon, in his mind. Dad died before Daniel could confront him, so I became the target, his twisted way to settle a debt that never existed. Clara's photo, creased in his wallet, was his obsession, his reason to unravel. The cabin held more secrets. Police found a journal under the floorboards. Daniel scrawled ravings about Clara, about making them pay. The scratched words on the cellar wall, not the first, weren't about other victims, thank God, but his failed attempts to confront others tied to Clara's case. I was his focus, his final plan. Knowing that didn't make the nightmares stop. I still see his eyes, wild and broken, and hear his voice, "You'll pay what's owed." Recovery is slow. My wrists are scarred, my sleep fractured. Mara hovers, cooking meals I barely eat, while Lena, the ranger, checks in, her own guilt clear. She'd been on Clara's search team, too, and carried that failure. She told me they almost missed the cabin, distracted by a false lead in another valley. My arrow in the dirt, my initials were the difference. I hold on to that, proof I fought back, even when I doubted I could. I'm different now. The forest I loved feels like a stranger, its beauty tainted by the memory of that trapdoor, those footsteps. I'm stronger, though, in ways I didn't expect. I teach again, telling my students about survival, not just in the wild, but in the mind. I see Clara's face in my dreams, not as a ghost, but a reminder. Life is fragile, but so is hate. Daniel's in prison, his cousin too, but justice doesn't erase the fear that someone else might be out there, nursing a grudge, waiting. I walk to the edge of Mara's yard sometimes, staring at the distant trees. The forest is still there, vast and uncaring, hiding cabins and secrets I'll never know. I'm safe, but I'll never trust a stranger's smile again. And sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder how many others are still out there, lost in the wild, waiting for someone to find their mark. The Olympic National Forest looms beyond my window, its cedars whispering secrets I'll never fully know. I'm Elias Carver, 32, back in Seattle, alive but changed. The scars on my wrists, pale and jagged, are a map of the cellar where I fought to survive. Mara's laugh fills her house now, but her eyes still search mine, checking for cracks. She saved me, her stubborn calls pushing the rangers to find that cabin. Lena Carter, the ranger who pulled me from the dark, visits sometimes, her own guilt about Clara's death a silent bond between us. Daniel Holt's trial was quick. His journal, found under the cabin's floorboards, laid bare his obsession with Clara, his sister, and his twisted blame on my father. He's locked away, but his cousin Paul's plea deal left a bitter taste. Freedom for truth, a trade I can't forgive. The paper with Clara's name sits in a drawer, a reminder of how close I came to being a name scratched on a wall. I teach again, telling kids about ecosystems, resilience. But the forest haunts me. Its beauty hides traps, cabins, grudges, shadows. I hike now, but never alone, and I check every stranger's eyes. Mara says I'm healing, but at night, I hear boots on gravel, see that rusted knife. I'm stronger, yes, but the wild taught me trust is a luxury. What if another Daniel is out there, waiting?